Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Freedom Wagon Films. I'm relaunching this video channel. I've already put out 2 previous videos and I hope you go watch them. Now granted, be easy on me, I shot them with my iPhone and wasn't really kind of focused on what I wanted to do with this channel. I just got back from a deployment. I got myself an actual camera, GoPro Hero. It's a great little thing, seems to be shooting good video. And I've got a couple of projects going on. I'm going to show you what they are, where they're going, what I'm doing with them. But this channel and what I want to do with it and what I hope you all get from it is not only am I going to be working on my own projects and documenting them for myself and friends and family just to stay updated on what I'm doing, but I also want to share some of the knowledge I've gained. I'm all self-taught, not attended any schools for any of this, but I've had a couple of people, main one being one of my coworkers, one of my buddies, Archer. He hit me up and told me that he ended up replacing his alternator on his car because he was inspired to do it after watching me pull the motor out of Freedom Wagon here because I'd blown out a freeze plug under the bell housing. And so he saw that, you know, I did it at home, did it by myself, and when his alternator went bad, he used the tools he had to get his car back on the road. So I'm gonna take you through the journey, my working on my cars and other projects. I'm gonna be doing other projects, minor fabricating and making art projects out of old worn out engines and components, giving them a new life, new uses. And I want to just go through and hopefully inspire other people. A couple of things that I'm going to do on this channel that are different from most car shows, most YouTube channels that I've ever seen, is that I'm going to keep you abreast of what I've spent on the vehicles. So whether it's the overall cost and budget for doing something like working on this, my 1969 Pontiac Le Mans that I got from my grandma. She bought it back in 1972 from a family friend, and then it was parked in a barn in 1986 and hasn't run since. So I'm doing a frame-off restoration and light modifications on this vehicle, which I'll go into later on in this video. I'm also going to cover the time as well, because that's something that often gets ignored and is hard to estimate. Whether you're doing it yourself or paying somebody else to do it, estimating your time as well as the money is hard and very important. So hopefully we'll be able to give you guys a more realistic measuring stick, whether it's a full-off restoration like the Pontiac or whether it's doing something a little more simple as diagnosing squealing front end like I've got to do on this truck. So whether it's a $20 repair that takes 20 minutes or whether it's a several $1,000 job that takes several months, I'm going to take you on this journey. I'm going to keep you up to date on what I've spent, what time I've taken, any special tools I needed or wished I had, and then some tips and tricks for how you can do this in your own home. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take you all on a tour of the vehicles I have, what projects we're going to do with them, their future, and where we're at. So the first one is the Pontiac. Now this car, as I've explained previously, was my grandma's, and I hauled it down here from Indiana. It was in a barn since about 1986 or so. Now this car came with a 250 cubic inch overhead cammed straight six, second overhead cammed motor to come in an American car. Now it came with a 1-barrel carburetor on it, made about 175 horsepower. But this is going to be a cruising car. I'm going to keep it pretty close to stock with the exception of disc brakes. I've got conversion rotors here. We're going to make it vacuum boosted brakes instead of the manual brakes that are on it now. So I'm doing that. But other than that, I'm pretty much just updating the suspension components. Going to rebuild the motor, rebuild the transmission, put some new wiring in it so I don't have any problems with that. Replacing soft lines like the fuel line you can see there. I had to cut it, but it's all old and worn out. Power steering lines are worn out. Putting fresh brake lines in it, that kind of thing. It needs a fair amount of body work. You can see here I've been seeing how deep the rust goes on the body panels, but all in all it's pretty solid except for the front quarter, which I'll show you later. And inside, I apologize, I had to store some stuff in here for a minute, but here, see that it's a little bit bigger than a quarter-sized rust hole, and I'll get better video of this in a future episode, but the floor pan is very, very solid. The underbody is solid as well. I'm going to keep the dash as it was in here. I'm not going for a show quality restoration, so I'm going to keep most of this intact. I will, can't really capture it, but I'm going to replace the convertible top button with a stock appearing button. The radio will be swapped out with a Bluetooth capable unit, but I'm going to leave that unit in there and just put the new unit in the glove box or something, or I'm going to find a retro appearing unit to go in there. Other than that, I'm going to get the seats reupholstered and new carpet to go in there and a new top, because it is pretty much destroyed, but we'll get all the bumps and lumps and scratches and rust out of it, and we'll go on that journey together. At least up until professional painting, I'm not going to do the final paint coats on it, but I will do all of the prep work myself. Now with Shonda Jenkins, for those of you who haven't seen this car in the past, or haven't seen my previous videos on this car, it's a 2002 Honda Accord, and it has just shy of 300,000 miles on it. Now that being said, despite the clear coat problems, it is the Raptor edition. Have to point that out every time. Previous owner stuck that on, I guess, in a desperate attempt to get even more horsepower out of it. But mechanically, everything on this is very sound. All the windows work, all the electronics work, radio works, starts, stops, no problem. I did have an electrical issue with it where the lights were blinking. I do have a crack in the windshield that, there you are. I may get that replaced. I am going to do a video on this, replacing the timing belt and water pulley. I don't know the last time it was done, so I'm just going to go ahead and knock it out. But this car is going to go on the auction block to make room for a future project. So I will update you as we progress for that. Now, the real star of the show, Freedom Wagon. My 1993 F350 extended cab and long bed. This thing is a aircraft carrier. It's about 20.7 feet long. Excuse me, 20.7 feet long. And it weighs, last time I had it weighed, it was right at 6,600 pounds. So it is a boat. I stripped all the paint off of it, sanded it down to bare steel, and then did my own little homebrew rattle can paint job. I do have a few problems with it. There was a little error in my taping job, masking off job, that resulted in that whole bare area. I missed a sanding mark where I'd scuffed the paint. I've got a few little, you can see here, instances of overspray. So I'm going to come back through and touch that up. And then there's also some instances where I sprayed a little too thin, or touched it with my ungloved hand. Either way, I've got some surface rust under the edge here. Now in the bed, I've got more of it, but I'm also not terribly concerned with it right now. Now I did end up with a really good 20-foot paint job, which is what I was aiming for at the end of the day, but we're going to make it a little bit better. Now the bed is in actually really good shape. There's no rust holes. There are patches of some pretty serious surface rust, but nothing that is rusting through. I've got a gooseneck there that's folded down into the bed. And so what I'm going to do with this is we're going to sand it all down, get it down to bare, good, clean metal, and then I'm going to prime it, and then I'm going to use Rust-Oleum's bed liner on it. And it's way cheaper than Rhino lining or Line-Xing, so I'm trying to see how well it holds up, and give you guys a little homebrewed home review on that, as far as the process of applying it, the cost, and then the results, seeing how well it holds up, if I have any problems with any of that rust coming back, which I shouldn't, but we'll find that out. The truck doesn't have a functional parking brake, so I use this block of wood anytime I'm parked on a hill. So eventually I do need to fix that. I plan on correcting that. I don't know what I'm going to do with the dash. It's pretty torn up. There's no radio. The climate controls do not work. There's the previous owner had punched a big hole in the AC unit condenser out on the front end of the truck, so the compressor had seized up and AC unit is dead. The fan for the heater, the fan had shorted, so I can't even use the heat. So I ended up having to bypass the heater core altogether. Just when I pulled the engine out, put the engine back in, I just went ahead and bypassed it. So I don't know what I'm going to do dash-wise yet, but I'm thinking about just making my own, making a series of videos on fabricating my own dash, getting some different gauges in there, putting some switches in, doing videos on wiring up all the switches for lights, because my headlight knob is gone. I have to use my handy dandy set of pliers to turn on my lights at night. Anyway, I'm gonna update the interior. We'll pull the carpet out, clean it, Rhino line, or we'll do the Rust-Oleum bed liner on the floor, take care of any rust issues that are going on in there. And then since I'm doing it on the cheap and this is a working truck, I'll probably just clean the carpet and put it back in over top of the Dynamat and all of that, but we'll see how it goes. I eventually need to figure out what I'm going to do with the headliner. The old headliner was just totally worn out and sagging and really dusty and nasty. I put this generic Dynamat in here and it's made a huge difference. I absolutely love the difference that it's made. I need to finish out the rest of the roof, and also let's go back here. So I do have the split rear window. Currently it doesn't have a functioning latch, so I've got it just taped together to help keep the rain out. I need to figure out a new latching system to make it a little more secure as well as weatherproof, so I don't end up getting water coming in here and rusting out this truck. And finally, for this truck, I need to update the seat belts. The old seat belts, you can see, they're pretty raunchy. I have replaced the shoulder straps on both the front seats. However, Ford used a funky bolt in here for the clips, or the seat buckles, and so I need to find a correct bolt with the correct thread pitch that will allow me to use this aftermarket retrofit kit. And once I do that, then I'll have full working seat belts. They function just fine, but I'd really like to replace those old buckles and then the rear seat belts. Just look at that. That's not good. So I'm going to replace that, clean up this seat. Might do something with that door skin. This is a working truck, but I do want it to be kind of nice. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video. Little introduction to the channel. Went over what the goals are going to be for this show. Showed you the vehicles in the Freedom Wagon fleet. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. Like, comment, share, subscribe. If you did like what you see, tell a friend. If you don't, tell me. Look forward to seeing you in the hearing from you. Hope you enjoy the future videos that I'm gonna definitely enjoy making. I definitely enjoy this, and I figured I'd share it with everybody else. Have a great day.